I'm going to keep reading this book, Trial by Poison. It's by Dave and Nita Jackson. And the name of this chapter is, indeed, Trial by Poison. And we are in the middle of that chapter. I'll take up where I left off yesterday. Imatu watched as Janie and Okeen and Udo and Okot fussed over the new baby, a girl. Even little Annie toddled about, clapping her hands and saying, "Baby!" She was a tiny thing, with a pinched face and scrawny body from days without food. Ants and insects had bitten her nose and mouth and ears, but everyone shook their heads in amazement and agreed it was a miracle that the baby was still alive. Imatu felt confused by all the mixed-up feelings she had inside. She was grateful that Ma Slessor had saved her mother's life from the trial by poison, but she was angry that Ma had left the prisoners alone in the first place. What if she had arrived 1 minute later? It was too close, much too close. And Imatu was glad. Ma said that the baby she found in the bush was a sign of life, but going to find the baby had almost cost Inyam her life. Imatu also felt guilty that she had ignored the baby's cries when she and Udo heard it on the path. And even though Ma Slessor had not said so, Imatu wondered if the red-haired missionary was mad at her. Still, she resented all the attention the baby was getting. Didn't everyone realize that Inyam was still in chains, her body and clothes dirty and smelly from 3 days without being able to wash? When the morning rain had stopped, Ma Slessor marched over to the village clearing with the new baby, followed by Janie and Okeen, carrying Susie and Annie, with Okot, Udo, and Imatu bringing up the rear. "Chief Adim," she announced pleasantly, "I am ready to palaver." The witch doctor was noticeably absent. He had been deeply offended the night before and had gone away, taking his charms with him. No one seemed too upset. Most of the villagers considered it an honor to have Ma Slessor living among them, and if it was a choice between her and the witch doctor, well... The chief sat on his leather and bamboo stool and rubbed his chin. "The headman and I have been talking, Ma," he said thoughtfully. "We'll agree to release the prisoners if that will make you happy." "Yes, that would make me very happy, Chief Adem," said Ma Slessor with a big grin. The chief held up his hand. "I am not finished. All the prisoners, except for 2, the wife of Chief Akpo and my kinswoman, Inyam." For a moment, hope had flickered in Imatu's heart, but it died again. "But why?" cried Ma Slessor. "Why not release them all?" "I am trying to be patient, Ma," said the chief gruffly. "I have listened to you. We will release 10 prisoners. Isn't that enough?" Ma started to protest, but the chief held up his hand to silence her. "I will tell you why, Chief Akpo, and he ran away, did he not? Doesn't that suggest that he is guilty of putting a curse on my son? Wasn't he angry that you wouldn't let him take weapons to the creek town? He probably wanted revenge." "Then why punish his wife?" argued Ma Slessor. "She is innocent. Let her go." The chief was silent. Ma Slessor always out-talked him, ruining his good arguments. Finally, he said, "All right, I will make a deal. I will let the woman go, but only on one condition. If Chief Akpo is captured, he must face trial to see whether he is innocent or guilty of cursing my son." "Agreed," said Ma Slessor happily. Imatu knew that the chief was probably thinking of trial by poison, but Ma was thinking of the talking kind of trial, where witnesses presented evidence and a judge, usually Ma, decided the verdict. "What about Inyam?" Ma Slessor pressed. The chief stuck out his chin stubbornly. "Enough! Be content that only 1 prisoner stays. Now go away, my heart is grieving for my son." And the chief picked up his stool and went into his hut. Before the chief could change his mind, Ma Slessor motioned for the guards to lock the prisoners' chains. "Go quickly," she said to the men and women who stood up shakily, rubbing their sore wrists and ankles. "Go to the mission house. We will give you each some food to take with you. Now go, go." Only Inyam remained chained to the post in the women's yard. It was too much for Imatu. She fell on the ground, beating her fist in the dirt and weeping. Inyam just looked away. Okin knelt down beside his friend. Don't cry, Imatu, he said anxiously. Don't cry. There is still hope. See how many prayers Jesus has answered? He can answer one more. Please don't cry. Imatu stayed beside her despondent mother the rest of the day, leaving only to get her water or food. Everyone left them alone, even the guards left. That evening the chief, his head wife, and several of the headmen of the village came to sit with the body of the dead boy, still dressed in his fancy clothes, sitting under the large umbrella. Finally the chief stood up. We cannot wait any longer, he said. We must bury the boy tomorrow. All will be done tomorrow. And he walked out of the yard with the others following behind him without giving Inyam a glance. That is a good sign, said Moslesser. Nothing will happen tonight. He made no threats. Whatever is going to happen won't happen until tomorrow. I think we should all get a good sleep. But Imatu refused to leave her mother. Together they curled up on the ground as the night sank into an inky darkness, the moon and stars hidden by ever-present clouds of the rainy season. Sometime in the middle of the night, Imatu thought she heard something. Without moving her position, she opened her eyes but could see nothing. By her mother's deep breathing, she knew Inyam was still asleep. There, she heard it again, as if someone was stealthily moving in the women's yard. Imatu's heart started beating faster, but she was too frightened to move. Out of the corner of her eye, Imatu saw a large, dark shape bend slowly over her mother. She heard a small metal click, then another, and then the shape was gone.